Hello to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5 a.m. Club. It's morning tea for me here in Sydney, and I'm down here in the gardens next to the Museum of Contemporary Art. And as you can see, there are a number of stalls that are set up here. It's very colourful, it's very beautiful, and it looks really interesting. And it's a gin festival where we've got gin distillers from all over Australia showing off their wares. And we've got the Hendrick's Cucumber Bar where you can buy yourself a gin and tonic, and all these other places where you can sample the various types of gin. And I'd imagine that you're able to buy it as well. They've got some performances, they've got some live music, and it really looks like an interesting place. And it closes at about 9 p.m. So anybody who's interested in coming down and having a good chill out session, then Sydney Circular Quay is the place to be. Anyway, let's go on a walk and talk. And as you can see, it's a cracker, an absolute cracker of the day. Look how beautiful that blue sky is. It is a beautiful blue, and I love autumn here in Sydney. It's by far the best season of the year from my perspective, especially on days like today where it's gentle breeze, the sun is out, it's mild, and it's just awesome indeed. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a book summary. And the book summary that I'm going to cover off today is called Rising Strong. And it's a perfect book summary given that yesterday we celebrated the 200th anniversary of Greek Independence Day, a country that rose strongly 200 years ago to break itself away from the shackles, from the yoke of the Ottoman Islamic Empire, and to regain its freedom, its independence, its sovereignty, which it's been able to enjoy for the past 200 years. So this book is by the renowned author, Brene Brown, who's written a number of books, a number of interesting books, and a lot of her books are about vulnerability, about authenticity, and about bouncing back. The other thing that I've just noticed today is that the flags on the Harbour Bridge and on the MCA are flying at half-mast. So what I'll do is I'll try and find out what's happening. There must be some sort of memorial service, funeral, or something happening today for a dignitary. But it always intrigues me when I see flags flying at half-mast. But what we'll do is we'll kick off and see where this book summary leads us. So this book is about recovering from failure and learning how to say yes, yes please, let me try again, rather than just giving up hope and giving up every reason to continue going and pursuing and trying to find happiness in one's life. So the author here kicks off with the first formal point of this book, where Brene says that we need to learn how to pay attention, to focus and pay attention to our emotions, and dare to ask questions about them. Because at the end of the day, if you've got feelings, if you've got emotions about anything, there's an invitation there to try and understand it a little bit better, and to try and seek and find out what it's trying to tell you. And Brene says that she's an eternal optimist, and it's something that her parents instilled in her. And I can also say the same. I am also the eternal optimist. I'm the sort of person where, as a kid, if you gave me a box with manure in it, I'd be digging through the box and saying that there's got to be a pony in here somewhere, and just keep on digging. But it's important to be optimistic and to be positive and to look for the good in people around you and the opportunities around you. But what the author here is focusing on is the importance of focusing on and into our emotions and giving you permission to feel whatever you're feeling, and not to try and eliminate it, not to try and hide it, not to try and invalidate it, but to welcome it and to try and understand it, so that through this understanding we can leverage it. So one of the things she talks about is that we need to ask ourselves why we're feeling these emotions and be curious and investigate, because curiosity leads to creative solutions. Don't just ignore it. A lot of people tend to try and ignore their feelings of love, their feelings of hate, their feelings of neglect, their feelings of vulnerability, their feelings of shame. The author here says the worst thing you can do is ignore them, but the most empowering things you can do is to welcome it and to embrace it and to try and figure it out. Because whatever rumblings we have, and the rumbling is what happens when you think about something over and over again. But the author says that these rumblings, we need to write them down. We need to write down how we're feeling, what's happening, so that we can start to investigate and just to figure out if these rumblings are real or not real. Because sometimes we create things, we create feelings, we create circumstances, situations in our lives which are not real. They're based on irrational fears. They're things which we've inherited from other people. Other people have foisted their fears, their irrational fears upon us, and we tend to take them on, not knowing that we've taken them on, and before you know it, you become the average of the 5 or 6 people that you hang out with. And if those 5 or 6 people are negative people, if they're fear-mongers, if they're Debbie Downers, if they're negative Nancys, whatever they are, if they're not giving off positive vibes, so to speak, then you're going to be the victim, if you're not careful, of that negative energy or that negativity. So the key is to try and be aware, keep your feelers out, so that you can respond in an empowering way. So one of the things that we all try and do is we all try and predict the future based on what's happened in the past and jump to conclusions. And Brene says that a lot of these conclusions that we hastily jump to, are wrong conclusions because of a thing called narrative fallacy. The past doesn't equal the future, as Anthony Robbins says. Just because it happened once in the past, just because it happened to your father, your mother, your cousin, your sister, your brother, or somebody else that you're working with, doesn't mean it'll happen again, because each person bases their experiences and their beliefs on a small slither, a small sample of life. And if it's happened once, then they think it'll happen over and over again, which is not always the case. Shit happens sometimes, but it doesn't mean that because it's happened once, then that is the rule. That is the rule of thumb that will shape your future and all other decisions. You've got to give life a chance. You've got to give life a chance to express itself and look for the positivity and welcome a positive outcome. Because if you do the same thing over and over again 20 times, the first time may be a disaster, but the second through to the 20th time could create remarkable results. So I guess one thing that we need to focus on and understand is that we shouldn't give up too early, and we don't always need to change our approach because of one failure or two failures that have happened to us or other people around us. It also happens with our feelings as well, the author says, that our past feelings may be wrong and not an appropriate expression on how we may feel in our future. Because we can shape our feelings. We can shape our feelings by our perspective, by our attitude, by the questions we ask ourselves, and by the physical mood or physical place that we're in. You know, why is it that we always love having ouzo when we're in Greece? Whereas if you have the same ouzo here in Sydney, it just doesn't taste the same. The experience is nowhere near the same. So give yourself a chance to feel your environment, to feel the things around you, but not to limit it by the way you think and the limitations that you place upon yourself. Because we make up stories. We make up stories to help us cope with our emotions, and sometimes those stories are negative stories, disempowering stories, and other times they could be positive and empowering stories. It's up to you. But what the author is suggesting here for us to think about and to look into is to keep these rumblings in check, and use your bullshit detector for your own thoughts and also for the thoughts of those around you. You know, if you've got people around you who are fearmongers, who are suggesting that the property market is going to drop by 40% and the share market's going to collapse and there's going to be calamity everywhere, and everybody's going to suffer and have a lingering death through COVID-19 and vaccines and 5G. Just initiate and kick in your bullshit detector and understand that a lot of these things are irrational fears and things that you shouldn't be worried about, nor your children be worried about. And whatever rumblings you have, whatever thoughts you have, it's best to write them down and to have a first draft. But like every first draft, you know, you can go through and do a proofread and edit it for the bullshit, edit it for the negativity, and edit it for all the negative rumblings. You can change it for the better. You can change your story. You can change your story now, and you can change the story that you say to yourself over and over again. You can change it for the better. Change your narrative is the message coming from this wonderful author. And the final formal point coming from this book is that you need to channel your insights from rumblings into positive changes. So it doesn't matter what you think about, doesn't matter what other people think about, it's all about action. What's your action that's going to change your life and what's going to cause a revolution? Just like the Greeks 200 years ago said enough is enough. We need to change, we need to be free to live our life and to express our lives the way we choose to, as opposed to being oppressed. And the Greeks went through 400 years of oppression, being under Ottoman rule, the Ottoman yoke. So they decided enough was enough, and they took action. They took action which changed their future, which enabled them to keep alive their authentic language, their culture, their traditions, which many other countries that were under Ottoman rule were not able to do. So the Greeks maintained their Christian roots, maintained their language, and all of the things that were handed to them from previous generations. So the last point that the author talks about is the importance of asking for help. And asking for help is not a weakness, according to the author, but it's a key part of rising up strong. The Greeks did their revolution, but they got help. They got help by intellectuals which lived in other countries. They got help by others. They got support. because in order to rise and to rise strong, you need support and you need help. And the final point to come out of this book is the importance of reconciling your rumblings so that your thoughts and your feelings are aligned and in aligned together. Your goals and your values are aligned. And the last simple point that the author talks about is something that got me thinking and got me thinking really deeply. And she says that when you're walking and you see a homeless person sitting down asking for help, the worst thing you can do is to look away from the homeless person, because by looking away you are diminishing their humanity. So you can try to help, but if you can't help, don't look away. Look at them in the eye, say hello, say hi, and continue to walk past. Because by looking away and making them feel invisible is a big tragedy, and something that we can all try and avoid in future. So that's about it. So thank you very much for joining me on Jim's 5am Club on this magnificent Sydney autumn day. I'm just going to head back to work. So thank you very much for joining me. And let's finish off with a positive affirmation. I'm alive, I am well, I feel absolutely great. To my friends and family, stay connected, stay relevant, stay reasonable, and most importantly, let's ask for help for when we need help, and to always remember to rise strong, to be strong, and to recognize that our emotions are a guide that we can leverage and use. But in order to leverage and use your emotions, you need to be able to acknowledge them and accept them and embrace them without fear, without embarrassment, without shame. And to understand that and to have permission to feel the way you feel and not to try and inhibit it, because whatever you inhibit, whatever you repress, is something that's going to resurface in a stronger and uglier version. So thank you very much for joining me, and I'll finish up from where I started, and I look forward to coming to you again at lunchtime today to chat to you about another book summary that I'll cover, so that we can learn something new, so that we can go for a bit of a walk and talk, so we can be the gentle wind beneath our wings to lift us up, to get us through the morning, get us through the day, and hopefully take us to the point where we can live, learn, and pass it on to other generations. Yasas, take care, and thank you once again for joining me on this fantastic episode of Jim's 5am Club on this Friday, the Friday before the weekend. And I'll be going to a concert tonight at Enmore Theatre, which will be a further celebration of Greek Independence Day. Yasas, Zito Lefteria, and we'll chat again. Filakia from Jim's 5am Club. Bye for now.